Hello all, welcome to today's lesson, Chapter 10, In the Promised Land. Israel, the chosen people, defied God on several occasions. Each time God punished them, but later forgave them mercifully and showered them with blessings. In spite of this, they even doubted God's promise that they would inherit the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey. He said, "As punishment for your faithlessness, your children should wander in the desert as nomads for 40 years. 40 years of life in the wilderness was really hard and tedious for the Israelites. Whenever they faced problems, they murmured against Moses and against God. Thus, Moses was leading a people whose prominent traits were disobedience and defiance. Moses was a prophet of God, and he led the Israelites to liberation from the slavery in Egypt and through their travels across the deserts. He suffered many hardships for the people under his leadership. He even fasted and prayed for 40 days as penance for the idolatry of the Israelites. On several occasions, they still turned against him. They were prone to accusing him, and they even tried to stone him to death, but he always interceded before God on their behalf. Moses, however, could not enter the promised land. Once, the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain opposite Jericho. Pointing to the promised land, he said, "This is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there." Moses died while they were still in the wilderness. He was buried in the valley of Moab. The people of Israel observed 30 days of mourning for their dear departed leader, under whom they spent 40 years since the exodus from Egypt. There was never again a prophet like Moses who spoke face to face with the Lord. Aaron, whom God had given as assistant to Moses, had died earlier, so the leadership of the Israelites fell to Joshua. Before his death, Moses blessed Joshua. Moses summoned Joshua in front of the Israelites and said, "Be strong and bold, for you are the one who will go with his people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their ancestors to give them, and you will put them in possession of it. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed." The spirit of wisdom was upon Joshua the son of Nun. The Lord guided him, and the people listened to him. At the end of their 40 years of wandering, they reached a place called Moab on the bank of the river Jordan. They had to cross the river to enter the land of Canaan. Joshua then said to the Israelites, "Draw near and hear the words of the Lord your God. When the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, rest in the waters of the Jordan waters of the Jordan flowing from above shall be cut off. They shall stand in a single heap." The priests started ahead of the people, carrying the Ark of the Covenant containing the stone tablets that the Lord had given them. The Ark of the Covenant was a symbol of the presence of God. The people followed the Ark, and the moment the priests touched the water, the flow stopped. Dry land appeared in the river Jordan. The people then crossed over to the opposite bank of Jericho. The priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood on the dry ground in the middle of the Jordan until the entire nation of Israel finished crossing over it. Once they had crossed the Jordan, God directed Joshua to erect a monument using 12 stones they had collected from the riverbed. Joshua asked the people to tell the following generations that this monument was in grateful memory of the miraculous crossing of the river Jordan. The place where they erected the monument was called Gilgal. The people of Israel conquered the land of Canaan by following the instructions that God gave to Joshua. The first city they conquered was Jericho. God helped the Israelites in a special way to occupy the city, strongly fortified and surrounded by high walls. After this, they occupied all the cities and towns of Canaan one by one. Joshua distributed among the 12 tribes of Israel all the land that they had occupied. It was only because of Joshua's total obedience to God that he could bring the people to the land of Canaan. Thus, God's promise that he would give Canaan, the land of milk and honey, to the descendants of Abraham was fulfilled. This was the last of the promises God made to Abraham. The phrase, "the land where milk and honey flows," should be understood to mean a land where God's blessing was available in abundance. The slavery of Egypt and the hardships of the wilderness were now over. The people of Israel could live in their own land, and God, who is faithful in his promises, had provided for all the needs of the people of Israel. The people of the New Testament are also on a long pilgrimage like the Israelites of those days. Our pilgrimage is to a new land of Canaan that God, our loving Father, has promised us through Jesus. At the end of this journey, we will reach the goal, the heavenly Jerusalem. Heaven is the goal of life for all people of the world. How much more beautiful is heaven compared to the land of Canaan flowing with milk and honey? Heaven is the abode of God's presence, the final goal of each individual in union with God. Even though the people of Israel committed many offenses, they did not forget their goal, the land of Canaan. At the end of their hardships, they could achieve that goal. That is the message that we get from the life of the people of the Old Testament. We should lead our lives keeping heavenly Jerusalem as our goal, receiving from God the strength to overcome obstacles that we may face on the way. Thus, we will be able to share the bliss of heaven at the end of our earthly lives. So let us take a decision today. Like the Israelites who travelled with zeal to reach the land of Canaan, I will lead a life with zeal to reach heaven. Let us be guided by this word of God from Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed.